Hello, and welcome to Viva. Why are you making that face? Grayson looked like they were shitting in their seat.
My bad.
That's all right. Take two. Here we go.
That's actually like four.
Take
but
four.
Whatever.
Done some bad things in my life, Nikolai. Things I'm not proud of. I promised someone that I love very much that I would never go back to being that person. But for you, I'm gonna make an exception. You ask me what I saw when I looked at you. What do you see when you look at me?
Hello, and welcome to Viva La Action, the movie podcast where we're talking about all things action movies, the good, the bad, and the underrated. My name is Santi, and with me as always is my co-host, it's Grayson.
Hello.
Hello.
We definitely haven't done this opening 7 times.
Well, I just tried to do it, and then Google Drive shit itself, and I had to restart my tablet, so...
Yeah. It's going great.
It is going great so far.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Just chilling, vibing.
Hell yeah.
You?
Good. It's been puppy madness in this house today. My wife and I are getting a new puppy, and he's been visiting the house.
It's so small. I don't get it.
He is tiny.
I fully don't understand how small it gets.
No, you should have seen him when he was first born. I mean, he was like not even a ounce. I mean, just tiny little guy.
Christ.
But you know what else there is to learn?
What?
Did this? No. Okay. Oh my God. I was so afraid that literally as we got on a roll, the recorder shit itself. No, what I'm learning and what you all shall learn is that we have a very exciting announcement.
Ooh.
It's not that exciting, but I mean, it's a little exciting. I think it's exciting.
It's exciting.
We have stickers.
Yeah, we do.
We've made some stickers.
They're very cool.
They're very cool. They are not for sale.
Unfortunately.
But what I would like to do, if you are interested in a sticker, everybody but you, Grayson, you'll just get some.
I'm just going to get a sticker.
If you're interested in the sticker, here's what I think we'll do. So if you go ahead and leave us a review, so if you go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or somewhere like that, and you leave a review, 5 stars is probably the best.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever you think we're worth.
Yeah.
Take a screenshot of it and then send us an email or a DM or whatever your preferred method of communication is.
Yeah.
And we will mail you a sticker.
Yeah.
Free of charge.
Yep.
No shipping or anything required. I mean, it's a sticker, so I can just send it in an envelope. But
Yeah. It costs maybe 30 cents, depending on where you're at.
yeah. You'll get a handwritten note from me and maybe Grayson if they're around.
Probably.
Yeah. So we'll post a photo. By the time this episode goes up, I will physically have the stickers. So
They're sick as fuck.
they are sick. They're very cool. And I'll post a photo as soon as we get them.
Yep.
But yeah, so if you want a sticker, leave us a review
And
then tell us in some way.
yeah. Give me a sticker.
Yeah, give me sticker. Give me sticker.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't even have to leave a review. If you just message me, I'll probably just give you one.
But it's appreciated if you
Yeah. Engage with us in some way.
Yeah.
Comment on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like a post. Do something.
Share it. We don't
help
really...
us out. Help a motherfucker.
Please.
Tell somebody else to listen to the goddamn podcast.
Yep. And if you've been referred by a friend,
yes,
you'll both get stickers.
you'll both get a sticker. Anyway, that's all. See you next week. No.
Yeah. Adios.
That's not the point of the show. What we normally do on this show is each episode we watch and review a different action film.
Yeah, we do.
From the last century of action filmmaking. You are mad dog in the recorder right now. Are you worried it's going to turn off?
A little bit. I'm always worried it's going to turn off. This thing has given us so much hell.
It has given us a lot of hell. But you know who else gives them hell? Denzel fucking Washington.
Absolute legend.
In the 2014 action thriller film, The Equalizer. The Equalizer was directed by one Antoine Fuqua, and it stars the titular Denzel Washington, father of John David Washington, and probably other kids. I don't know.
Probably.
This film, like I said, was directed by Antoine Fuqua, stars Denzel Washington. It co-stars Chloe Grace Moretz, fucking David Harbour, fucking motherfucking Russian guy whose name I have written down, but my tablet still hasn't opened my notes. Martin Soka?
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese. 75-year-old Martin Scorsese.
Plays a Russian guy.
Yeah, he plays a Russian hitman.
Yeah.
He doesn't. But
that'd be funny if he did.
It would be funny. I would watch that movie.
I would too.
I would love for Martin Scorsese to play any role in an action movie. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, his name is Martin Sokas. It's spelled Csokas. Chokas? Something like that. The film has a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 77% audience score.
See, that's bonkers to me.
Why?
It was so good.
It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But let me finish up my little stuff and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So the film does not pass the Bechdel test.
Absolutely, the fuck it does not.
There are definitely more than two women, but they never talk to each other.
Do they even? Oh no, they do talk to each other, but briefly.
Well, one woman talks to another woman, but she is unconscious at the time.
That's true.
Which I don't think counts.
No.
So sorry, The Equalizer, but if you haven't seen this movie, the synopsis from IMDb. A man who believes he has put his mysterious past behind him cannot stand idly by when he meets a young girl under the control of ultra-violent Russian gangsters.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. Now, before we get into the film's plot and its behind-the-scenes details... What did you think of this movie?
I loved it.
Okay.
I really, really liked it. I was enthralled through and through.
Okay.
It was fantastic.
I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm biased. I feel like anytime there's like a series of movies, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's always a bias towards like the first one that you see. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just like... I don't know what that is, but I just so I saw the second one before I saw this one, and I think the second one has a little bit more of a like I don't know a livelier plot, I guess.
I gotcha.
I mean, this one it definitely has a good plot, but it's just hampered by I don't know. I feel like the first half is really strong, and then it kind of loses momentum.
Really?
In the second half. And I don't know if that's just me being nitpicky, but anyway.
Nah, that's fair.
It is really good, though.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Undeniably a great movie.
It is very good.
I would even say it's a good movie.
Whoa. Whoa.
So, this is film 2 in our Old Men Are Cool 2 trilogy.
Yep.
So, we started with Taken.
Yes.
Which is out now on podcast platforms everywhere, if you want to go listen to it. And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be covering Nobody. From 2021. So this is our second movie. So before we get into the spoilery stuff, I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Whoa.
1.
Yes.
How does this compare to Taken, our previous movie? Okay. And 2, would you recommend somebody watch this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
It's so... See, so the reason I say it's better than Taken is good, but it's a very simple, for me anyway, is a very simple action movie.
Yes.
It doesn't really mess around, fuff about with like metaphors and shit.
Right.
This movie was very artistic.
Yes.
And I really like that.
Yeah. I definitely I definitely think this movie is stronger as a movie.
Yes.
on its own. Like,
Yeah.
it is what more. It's definitely trying for more. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like Taken is like, it knows what it is.
Yes.
It's like, I'm a down and dirty,
Yep.
cash grab action movie, right?
Yes.
And I think it elevates itself a little bit above that. But I feel like this movie is definitely trying for something. I don't know if I necessarily think it gets there.
No.
But it's definitely going for a like more existential, spiritual kind of film, and I think it does a good job of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah, I would recommend somebody watch this. I think it's good. I really do think it's good. I think it's like very watchable. I think Denzel Washington has not lost an ounce of his charisma as he's gotten older. In fact,
he's a fantastic actor.
he might be the most charismatic man on planet Earth.
Probably. I mean, I don't think you're wrong.
Every second he's on screen, you're just like, God, I love this guy.
Yeah, he's so like kind.
He's kind, and he's got just like a fun like vibe to him.
Yeah.
And he's very like fatherly, I guess.
He's like gentle.
He is gentle. He's like a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So like we just said, the lead is Denzel, and he's playing a man named Robert McCall.
Yes.
Who I think that's a better name than Brian Mills.
Yes.
I don't know if that's just personal bias, but
yeah.
So he's playing a man named Robert McCall who is living a seemingly average,
normal life,
normal middle-aged man life.
Yep.
We have some rankings that we'll get to later, like some points we're going to assign it, but on the like sad dad scale, I don't think he's that sad because he seems like he enjoys his life.
Yeah.
But he's definitely got that like, if you saw him eating by himself in a cafe, you'd feel bad for him vibe.
Yeah.
Because he seems to mostly just like, he has like a normal 9 to 5, and he doesn't sleep too well at night, so he reads books at a diner at 2 a.m.
Yeah. Well, and like Terry, or what was her other name?
Alina.
Like Alina said, like he has that like look in his eyes that's not like sad, it's just like lost.
Yeah. And I definitely think Denzel does a great job of, because the twist of the movie, if there is one, is that Robert is secretly a very skilled murderer.
Very skilled.
For good.
Yeah.
He's a Black Ops, former Black Ops, some sort of commando agent.
Yeah.
It's very vague on what he is or does.
They never said what agency he worked for.
In the sequels, I believe it's revealed that he worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency or something like that. Like he worked in Defense Intelligence.
Gotcha.
He befriends this underage prostitute.
Yeah.
Who we find out later is not an adult. She is a child.
Yeah.
It played by Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yep.
Who's fantastic.
Oh, she did so good.
She's so good at playing like just like this, because she's clearly very spunky and like like very, very with it. But then she's also sort of this victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
And you can tell she like feels bad about that.
Yeah.
And she's not in the whole movie. She's in it like the first 20, 30 minutes, and then she kind of disappears until the end. But yeah, she befriends Robert because they spend, the evenings together at this diner, and they talk about books and life or whatever, but she gets beat up by her employers who are basically holding her hostage.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of Russian human traffickers. That's a common theme, it seems to be, with these two movies.
Yes. Human trafficking.
So Robert McCall takes it upon himself to just eliminate the entire Russian bratva.
Yep. Single-handedly.
Single-handedly.
Very impressive.
Very creatively. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a good fun time.
It is.
So the guiding philosophy of this podcast is action.
Yes.
What did you think of the action in this movie?
It was really good.
I think it's pretty good.
It was very snappy. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of like flair
No.
to it, which is totally fine, because a lot of like what Robert did to kill people was very creative.
Yes. Well, one of the things I read, and I was thinking back on it, one of the pieces of IMDb trivia is that you never actually see him use a gun.
Yeah.
And if you think back on it, I think that pretty much holds true.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very end, he uses a nail gun.
Yeah.
But I don't think that really counts.
No.
And at one point, he uses somebody else's gun while they're still holding it.
Yeah.
But that to me seems more incidental than it does intentional.
Yeah.
He is very creative. Because what I like is, because we'll talk about it later, as opposed to somebody like John Wick. John Wick is a very physical, you know, he will beat you through resilience and just being a better fighter. Whereas it feels like Robert McCall's thing is that he's smarter than you.
Yes.
And he will outmaneuver you. Like, a lot of the time, he does go hand to hand.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times where you see him, like, physically having to fight somebody, but it feels like his thing is more like, you know, you think he's around a corner, but actually he's been behind you the whole time.
Yep.
Or you enter a room and you think it's safe, but actually he's planted a bomb or what. You know, it's like he's much more clever than he is physical.
Yeah, that was the one thing I really liked about this movie was that like messing with like the lighting.
Yeah.
To like towards the end when he goes to like the head of the Russian boss, right? This Russian guy, he's like in the shower and then the lights turn off.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to like find his way out, and then the light, and then like the vanity light turns on, and there's Robert.
Yeah.
And Robert keeps turning it on and off.
Yes.
And then, and they're like talking, and he turns it off one last time, and then the Russian guy like walks up, like trying to look for him, and turns the light on, and he's gone. Which it was terrifying.
Yes.
It like this movie did such a good job of making Robert like seem like the most terrifying person to try and go up against.
Yeah, because he seems, one of the things I like about him is he is ruthless. Like he feels like the kind of guy where he's like psychotic.
Yeah.
But somebody has guided him in the right direction.
Yeah.
Where it feels like he's one of those guys where he'd be on the edge, right? Where it's like one or two bad things could have happened to him and he could have become a serial killer. But because, you know, it's kind of implied that he had a wife that he loved a lot.
Yeah.
And he was in the military and all this stuff. It's kind of guided him with a good, like, moral code.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's, I think, unique about this movie is Robert McCall he has OCD.
Yes.
And they do a good job, I think, of betraying that without saying it.
Yes.
Right? So there's like little things that he does. Like every time he sits down to eat, he, you know, arranges the silverware in a certain way. He always has, you know, his own spoon that he brings with him and whatever.
And the book always has to be flush and in the middle.
Yes. And I love that. I think Denzel does some really good like hand acting in this movie.
Oh my god,
where
it's so
he's
good.
like he'll be talking but silently he's, you know, kind of moving stuff around.
And it's deliberate.
It's deliberate, but it makes the character feel real.
Yeah.
You feel like that's a guy you've met, you know, and like somebody who can't just let things be. You know, they have to move things around the table. Because it gives him this sort of nervous but almost like calm, I don't know, like confidence.
Yeah.
Where it's like every time he enters a room, you're like, what's this guy up to?
Yeah, you kind of pause and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. But I read that, so The Equalizer is based on a TV series.
I was going to say.
Yes.
When I tried to look up where to watch this film, I put in The Equalizer and all I was getting was the fucking TV show.
Yeah, the original series was debuted in 1985. And it starred a man whose name I forgot to write down. It's Edward Woodward. That's his real name.
Damn. His parents must have hated him or something. Jesus.
I know. Edward Woodward. And he...
poor guy.
Old white guy. So one thing they've kept consistent is his age. Because in that movie, I mean, in the series, he was probably like, 50, 60. It was in the 80s, so he looked like he was about 90.
Yeah,
but
he's about ready to drop dead at any point.
Genuinely, he looks terrible. But what's interesting is they actually race swapped it for this movie. So, which I think is just
fine.
It's fine. It's funny though because normally when they do that with a character, right? Like especially with comic book characters, people lose their minds, right? They're
bananas.
like, whatever.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Well, what if Black Panther was white?
Yeah. How about my foot goes up your ass? What do you think about that, huh? You dumb shit. Fuck.
But I feel like most people, it seems like from what I can tell, don't care that Denzel plays the Equalizer because he's so cool.
Yeah.
But I watched a little bit of the TV series from the 80s. Boy, oh boy, is it a TV show from the 80s. It's like a guy and he wears like a long trench coat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's much more episodic than the movie. So it's like, he'll enter a room and like at each episode he's got like a problem he's got to solve for somebody. Yeah. And he's much more of a talker in the show than he is in the movie. It's a lot of him being like, what are you going to do that for, buddy? Like, you and me, let's just talk outside. It's not a big deal, blah, 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 whatever. Whereas Denzel is much more likely to be like, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then he does it, right?
Yeah.
But in the show, the larger point I was going to make, he is not a man with OCD in the show. No. He's just a guy. He's just a dude. They don't even really explain where he's from.
Yeah.
And Denzel is actually the one who brought that to the character.
Oh.
Because he just thought it would be an interesting character trait for him to have, right?
Yeah.
But I just think it's such a good choice. It's just like it makes that character so much more interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things the movie does a really good job of is, like they sort of do with Brian Mills, they do a lot to show you that before you even know it, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't even see Denzel. The first thing we see is his house.
Yeah.
And what you see is everything is straight and neat, and his bed is like completely made, like perfectly. And you kind of get a sense of who he is before you even see him.
There's like nothing in the house.
No, yeah. It's very bare bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, I think.
Well, and even before I don't know if we see him go to the cafe before or after this, but there's a scene he like eats food at home, and he has the one plate, a fork, a knife, and like a cup.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. And he like after he's done eating, he immediately washes everything. He has to wipe the sink down,
right,
and then fold up a towel, put it on the thing, and then like flatten it out and move on. And that was when I first, as I was like watching it, I was like, I didn't go immediately to OCD. I was like, probably just military guy, and that's just how he does things because that's how the military is. But then when he started, it really hit when he went to go visit the Russian guys in that restaurant, and he closed the door, and then he opened it and closed it and opened it and closed it. I was like, OCD.
Yes. And he does it 5 times.
5 times, yeah.
Dude. Yeah. That scene is it's so good.
Fucked up.
It's so fucked up, but it is so good. It is like, that whole scene feels like a bomb is about to go off.
Yeah.
Like,
the tension is
from the moment he enters the room, you are so tense because you're just like, what is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And out of context, right? This is like before you've seen him do any action.
Yep.
You're like, what is this old man going to do? Right?
Yeah.
And he just walks in, he puts the money on the table.
Yep.
And he's like trying to talk the guy into just letting, so-and-so go.
Yep.
Right? And you can kind of see he's like weighing up his options. And then the guy says something about like, come back in whatever time, she'll be all used up by then, right?
Yeah.
And you see the moment in Robert McCall's head where he's like, damn, I gotta kill everybody.
and that's like a consistent thing throughout. He does try and like give, like you said, he like gives them options.
Yes.
But then they always are dumb. And then there's that moment he's like, well, okay, I guess you have to die now.
Yeah, and what I like too is that the build up to where you see it on his face, and you see he's like toiling with it because he's like, I don't want to be this guy. And then when he bang, 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 and you're like, oh, he's gonna kill him.
Oh, they're done. Adios.
And I mean, there's this thing in movie making that I think is an underrated skill that certain directors have where you build to an oh shit moment, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've talked about this a long time ago, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Antoine Fuqua, from what I've seen of his movie making, he is so good at building to an oh shit. Like, yeah. And I think one of the things that he introduces is this idea that part of Robert's OCD is he likes to time everything, right?
Yes.
And he likes to figure out how long is this going to take me, like how, whatever. And you see him do it at the beginning, he'll set the timer for whatever. But there's that great moment where he shuts the door, turns around, he kind of looks at everybody. And there's like some slow-mo as he's looking around. He goes, 16 seconds, sets the timer, and he's off.
And goes.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's one guy, he stabs him in the throat. There's another guy that he just snaps his neck.
Takes a corkscrew and just right up through the bottom. Oh my God.
It's so good. It's a little too quick for my taste, but I do like it. I think it works for the character. And I think it works for hiding the fact that Denzel Washington is a 70-year-old man.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most brutal parts of that is when he walks up to the guy that he used the gun to shoot.
Yeah.
And he's like bleeding out on the floor, and he sits down, and he has this heart to heart with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, so here's what's gonna happen. You're bleeding out. It's gonna take you about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna suffocate and you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. And he's talking and talking, and then the guy finally dies, and Denzel's just like, and then that's it.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I like about that moment too is the guy dies, and then you see Denzel kind of put his head back against the table, and he says, "I'm sorry."
Yes.
And
yes.
That moment is very cool because it's you get the sense that he's saying, "I'm sorry." Not to the guy he just killed, but to his dead wife.
Yeah.
And again, none of this is ever said.
No.
They never go, and then I promised my dead wife I wouldn't do this anymore. So blah blah blah. It's the filmmaker is smart enough to let you figure all that out, and I think it makes for a much more effective narrative because you're kind of you get the sense that he's trying not to kill people.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where his OCD comes from, is he's I'm trying not to be a murderous psycho, but people keep pulling me into it. You know?
People keep being stupid.
Yeah,
and I have to be the one to fix it.
What did you think about his buddy Ralphie? I
loved Ralphie.
He's the best.
He was so good, and one of the funniest lines.
Yes,
it's after. It's the next day after the restaurant scene. Mm-hmm. He goes to work, and Ralphie, who Robert is helping to train and become a security guard for the place that they're working.
Yeah.
He rolls up and hands Robert an empty can of Pringles.
Yes. Yeah.
And inside is a piece of paper with a number on it, 247.
Yeah.
And that's the weight that he had to hit in order to take the test and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they're talking about this, and Ralphie notices Robert's bruised knuckles.
Right.
And he's like, oh, what happened? Mm-hmm. And the best line ever, Robert just goes, I hit it on something stupid. I lost it.
It's so good.
I was like, that's nice.
Yes, it's fantastic.
So I love Ralphie.
Ralphie's the best, and I was so glad he didn't die.
Oh my God,
I was so worried for Ralphie.
There was a moment in the end fight scene in the store where it's that. You know that classic trope of where somebody gets away and they're at a door and they look behind them okay, everything's good. They open a door and somebody's right there and just fucking blows them away.
Yeah.
I was please let there be nobody behind that door.
I know.
Please.
Yes. You just want Ralphie to live so bad.
I know.
You're he just made security guard.
I know. And he was so happy about it too.
And I love watching Denzel Washington beat up a bunch of cops.
Oh yeah.
I literally
Oh my
wrote,
God.
what's the note I wrote? So I was like, I said something and then I was like, ACAB. Just out of, just like, and I knew exactly what that would mean to myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene, so we discover that Ralphie's mom, who owns a restaurant, is being basically extorted by these corrupt cops.
Who are bought by the Russians.
Yeah, who've been bought by the Russians. And there's a great scene where Robert figures that out, and he's like surveilling them. And then he like corners them behind the restaurant. And they're like giving him a hard time, but then he like shows them this video, and he's basically like, you know, if you don't give everybody their money back, I'm going to release this video and you guys are going to be, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, right. Like, whatever. Yeah. Who's this old guy? And then he just beats the piss out of them. And it's fantastic.
It's so good.
He's just like stealing their gun and breaking their legs and just like
messing them up real bad.
It's real good.
And and he's like, yeah, you give the money back and this never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
And then we cut and they've given the money back. Yeah. Which fair?
Very fair.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So there's kind of like two villains.
Yes.
There's the initial villain who gets dispatched very quickly.
Yeah.
But then we meet this other guy whose name I didn't write down, but he's the villain played by Martin Sokas. Mm-hmm. He is very good at being very evil.
Yes.
He's got just an evil face.
Yep.
God bless him.
Yep.
My favorite scene with him is So David Harbour's in this movie. He plays.
I saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't know who David Harbour is, he's the sheriff from Stranger Things.
Yep.
He's Santa Claus in Violent Night.
Yep.
Yes. He plays like a corrupt cop.
Yep.
Who's on the payroll of the Russians.
He's really good in this.
He's very good, playing a very different role for him.
Yeah.
Just doing the best Boston accent you've ever heard in your life.
Honestly.
Man, he looks so Boston. He's got like a gold chain on for a lot of it.
The shorts.
Just the shorts.
Oh my
just a
God.
fucking Red Sox hat. Just this movie's so Boston.
Yeah.
Any moment you're expecting someone to be like, "Hey, give me my Dunkin'," you know, like.
Yeah.
But so he escorts Martin Sokas' character to this like construction site where these Irish gangsters are, and he's like having a conversation with them. And it's a very tense scene, and like there's this moment where you're like, you know, you think it's all going to be resolved for a second, but then the Irishman says something stupid, and all of a sudden Martin Sokas just jumps this dude and is just beating the shit out of him. And it's in that moment where you're like, oh, that's what this guy's about.
Yeah. Well, and then like he keeps going. Yeah. Like he gets him on the ground and he's like punching his face and screaming.
Yeah.
And he goes for like a solid 30 to 45 seconds of just pounding this guy's face. And there was a moment where I was like, you can let up now.
Yeah.
You got him.
Yeah. It feels like there's that TikTok sound. And it's like Batman beating up somebody. And it's like, psh, 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 and the guy's like, hey, man, I think you got him. He's like, you know what he's having?
Yep. Yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah. And the... what's his name? David Harbour's character is like watching this and he is horrified.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good scene. He's a good villain.
He is a very good villain. Just a real piece of shit.
He is a real piece of shit. Well, one thing I wanted to... So I thought about this earlier and then I just remembered. One of the things I like is that I appreciate that they make Robert McCall out to be intelligent enough to know when there's going to be collateral damage.
Yes.
And you can... Yep. I like that he tries to avoid it.
Yes.
And I don't know why... I feel like there's so many movies, like vigilante movies or superhero movies or whatever, where you never see the heroes considering, you know, collateral damage. Mm-hmm. And I just think there's a very cool scene where the store is getting robbed, right, by this woman or by this man.
Yeah.
And you can see in his face that he's about to go into that mode, right? His equalizer mode.
Yeah.
And he's like sizing the guy up. He's figuring out how he can whatever. But then there's this very intentional shot where he looks over and he sees a little boy with his mom, and he realizes, oh shit, if I try to apprehend this guy, that kid could get hurt, right?
Yep.
And you see him stop. And he's just like, okay, I can't do anything about it right now.
Yep.
But he follows him outside. He gets his license plate. There's a really, really brutal moment where you see him go to the hardware section.
Yeah.
And he just picks up a sledgehammer.
Yep.
We don't find out what happened to that guy.
Nope.
But later he puts it back.
He's wiping blood off of it. Yep, and he just puts it back. That is one thing I wanted to say about this movie. It does a really nice job of like balancing, like showing what he's capable of and then implying what he's capable of and just letting your imagination run wild, because Lord knows what the fuck he did with that sledgehammer.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to know.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty, yeah. And I would say too, I think one of the strengths of this movie is they have some self-control. Like they don't make him out to be a complete, he is a psycho, but they don't make him out to be a complete psycho, right? No. Like he doesn't seem to enjoy the brutality.
No.
He's just like, he's one of those, he's kind of like, I don't know. I can't think of a good example. I guess he's kind of like the Winter Soldier, where he understands like the most efficient way to kill somebody in that moment, right? Like, does he enjoy putting the corkscrew through that guy? Not really.
Probably not.
But it's the most available weapon.
Yep.
You know, and that's probably going to kill him faster than anything else. And one of the things that, I don't know, I'm liking this movie more that I talk about it.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things I enjoy is that he never runs.
No.
He's always walking, which is so much scarier.
Oh, it's terrifying. I was thinking about it after I watched the movie, and I was like, I feel like Robert McCall gives John Wick a run for title of Baba Yaga.
Yes, he's so scary
because it like there were so many like just shots and like tense moments where you don't know where he is.
Yes.
And you're like, what is going to happen? Like there were several moments where I was genuinely afraid. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, he's pretty scary.
Yeah, but again, he's also one of the most. He seemed just like the gentlest guy ever. I mean, he's reading like 100 books.
Yeah.
By the time he's dead?
Right.
And so he's just like this normal guy. Works at a hardware store. Terrifying.
It is terrifying. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. I like that he is, you know what he is? He's the good version of what Shoney B thinks his character is.
Yes.
Where he's this very charismatic, likable guy.
Yes.
And he doles out advice, but it's always relevant. And it's always concise.
Yes.
You know? He's never like, hey, by the way, we should all sit down and blah, blah, blah. He's always just like, hey, if you don't like your situation, you should change it.
Just leave.
Yeah. Or he'll say like, or make a good metaphor. Or like, but you believe him because he looks like a trustworthy guy.
Yeah. Well, like when Alina and them are talking, she's talking about like her situation, and she's like, oh, that's just the world I live in. And he just says, then change your world.
Right.
And like, that was like, holy shit. That's such a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a shit world, fucking change it. Like,
just change your world.
You have the power to do that.
Yeah.
And so, that's really cool.
I wrote a note that just says, he's a father to all.
Yeah.
Oh, he kills a guy with a drill.
Oh,
that's
my
pretty
God.
brutal.
Holy fuck. Okay. So 2 points in that shop, in that store fight. First of all, the razor wire.
Oh yeah, that's brutal.
That was fucked up.
Yeah.
He like lays like sand on the ground, and I was like, what are you doing? And then we see these Russian goons are like walking down the aisles, and one of them steps on the sand, and he like looks down, and then all of a sudden just razor wire around the guy's neck, and on the other end as a counterweight there's like a bunch of like powdered cement,
right?
And it just lifts him up. And this was one of the moments I was like, this, he can give John Wick a run for his money.
Yes.
Because it lifts him just up enough to be eye to eye.
Oh, that's so
with Robert.
It's such a good moment.
Yeah, and Robert just stares him down.
Yeah.
Just stares as he's choking and getting cut to death on this razor wire.
Yeah.
And then Robert just disappears.
Yes. I would say, I'm going to say this right now, to you and to everybody listening. If you watch this and you like it, go watch the sequels. Because I think they're good. I really do. Like, the third one definitely leans more into the, like, religious imagery that this one evokes. But they're both so filled with moments like that where you're just like, this man is the devil. He's just mean and, like... But I mean, he's not mean. He's just like, he is death. Like, he's just scary.
Like you said, he knows the most efficient way to do a thing.
Yes.
And that it comes to the second point. There's this, like, there's these two Russian guys on opposite ends of an aisle. Yeah. And one of them notices a tripwire attached to, like, an acetylene torch. And there's, like, gasoline or something on the floor. And they, like, signal each other, like, oh, watch out for that. And then there's, like, a noise, and so they each go their separate ways.
Yeah.
And the one guy, like, backs up into what I initially thought was the barrel of a gun. I was like, oh, cool, he's just going to get his brains blown out. No. The camera pans. It's a drill.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, no.
Yep.
And he just does it.
Yep.
Free lobotomy.
Yeah. I was going to say, gave him a backwards lobotomy.
Yeah. And it was like, and what makes it, like, I don't want to say worse, but just like what adds to it is that Robert has no expression when he does it.
Right.
He is stone-faced, just drill into back of guy's head, put drill up here, leave.
Yes.
The fuck?
I know. It's so brutal.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say, so in that scene, one of the goons, if you notice, he's a bald guy, and he's got a big bushy beard, and he's got like the pointed mustache.
The best mustache ever, yes.
So that dude, his name is Tate Fletcher.
Okay.
And the only reason I know that is he's a local guy. He's from Albuquerque.
Whoa.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's really cool.
He's pretty well known as a stuntman because he's also in The Mandalorian. He's the body of that real big Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
He's the body of that guy. So whenever the helmet is on, that's who's playing him.
Wow.
He's also in John Wick. He's one of the guys who gets in the club scene.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Holy shit! Wow.
I think he gets garroted in that.
Oh well, that's besides the point.
Which is fine.
Yeah, good for him though.
He's pretty notorious for dying pretty brutally. But yeah, look him up. He's in all kinds of stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Albuquerque native, that dude. Huzzah!
Hell yeah.
If you ever go to Albuquerque Comic Con, he's probably there.
Probably.
Anyway, I had something else I was gonna say. Oh, so there's another scene that I really like. So Robert McCall corners David Harbour's character. He basically assaults him in his home.
Yeah.
And you think he's going to kill him with that classic, attach a hose to the what do you call it? The exhaust pipe of a car.
Yeah. And
run it into the window and then force somebody to choke to death, basically. Yeah. But he's basically just using it as an interrogation tactic. Yep. And he gets David Harbour to take him to this warehouse where the Russians are keeping all their money. And there's this fantastic scene. It doesn't result really in any violence, but Robert is like masquerading as like an undercover cop or a cop, a corrupt cop.
Yeah.
And there's just this great moment, and I think in any other movie this would not work because it's kind of a lame trope. But I love the moment where the guy's like, he asks him like, "Is that a Cochin whatever? Whatever the gun is?" And he's like, "My gun?" And he's like, "Yeah, can I see it?" And he's like, "Oh, you can see it," and holds it to his head. And Robert like laughs, and he's like, "Ha!" And then he just grabs it, turns it around. I'm like, in any other movie, that would be so lame.
Yeah.
But the way he's so smooth with it, you're just
my
like,
God.
oh.
Okay. I know. When he did that, I didn't even like register it
Yeah.
at first. And it took me a minute to catch up to what had happened. And I was like, God damn.
It's a great scene. And you have to imagine they rehearsed the shit out of that.
Oh,
so that he
yeah.
didn't accidentally like fucking drop it on the ground or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great scene.
It's so good. And then they put all of the like baddies in the cooler, and then they let all the poor workers go, and he's just handing them cash.
Yeah.
He's like, the Russian mob guy, he thanks you for your service.
Yeah.
You're fine. Here's all this money. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, one thing. So, there's a motif in this movie that I really, really like. It's very on the nose, but I think it's effective, where there's a lot of skull imagery.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like always like, if somebody's got a skull, that means they're going to die.
Yep.
And there's this fucking amazing moment, to return back to the scene we were talking about before in the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's sitting at the desk, and it's the moment right before he gets up, and there's all these skulls on the desk, and he just reaches over, takes one, puts it in front of one guy, puts it in front of another guy, and then turns one around to point at the other guy. And they're like, what's he doing? And you're like, oh, you've all been marked.
Yeah, you're done. Adios.
And then later you see there's another gangster who he kills, and that guy has like a skull like on his keychain.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's fun. Like, I don't know, it's just a nice motif.
It is. It's really pleasant.
It's like you said at the beginning. This is a better version of Taken, where it's a more artful.
Yeah.
It's more. They thought about it a little bit more, I guess. I mean, granted, they had a bigger budget. They've got a bigger star, but it's still like they had the care to put more thought into it. I guess it's not just a down and dirty action movie.
No, like I said, it's very artful. The music is really good. The lighting and like the shot What is your deal?
The dog wants out.
Yeah, well, like the shot composition and all that kind of stuff is just so well done.
It is.
And like everything has meaning.
Yes.
And like they're not. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of like added shit.
No.
Everything makes sense, and it's what's the word? Cohesive.
Yes. One thing I will say though, I think, and it's probably my main criticism, it's just too long.
Yes.
It is. Yep. It is maybe half an hour too long.
Yep.
Which, I don't know. It's a nitpick, but it is also like, as much as I enjoy a lot of the scenes of him like helping people, a lot of those could get cut out, and I think the movie would be the same.
Yep.
Because they don't ultimately contribute to the plot, I guess.
Yeah.
And well, again, I enjoy them, and I think there's a purpose to them. It does make the film feel a little bit bloated. Yeah. So by the time you get to the finale, you're kind of like, all right.
Yeah,
like,
let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. It's still good, but I do think if this were more effective, it would be a little bit shorter.
Yes.
But that's just personal preference. For me, the tight 90 minutes is always going to be more so enjoyable than a slightly bloated 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, it's an enjoyable 2 hours. I wouldn't say it doesn't drag too much.
No.
But it does. You do feel it by the end, I guess. Yes. Sorry, I was gonna let me refer to my notes if you have other stuff you want to say.
I do like in the first, I don't know, like 20 minutes where we see him going to and from the cafe.
Yeah.
We go there 3 times. Where we actually get to meet Alina. And it's either on the 3rd or 4th time.
Yeah.
That she has now disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I think it's called like the rule of 3 or something. Mm-hmm. I noticed that and I was like, that was really, really well done.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we get we get three different like little tiny scenes. They're all sort of the same.
Yes.
Obviously different clothes, right? And different like conversations.
Right.
But we see that like through the first 3 or 2 maybe, right? There's this small sort of just friendship forming between Robert and Alina.
Yeah.
And then on the 4th, or the 3rd or 4th, Robert comes in and we don't see Alina. Because up until this point, every time that Robert has come in, Alina is already there.
Yeah.
This time, Robert comes in, Alina's not there. And you can tell right away he's worried. He's like,
yeah,
something went wrong. Because the night before, Alina got a call saying that she had a client.
Right.
And went with the client. And then the next day, she had a black eye.
Yeah.
So then on that night, they're talking. She has to leave again with her boss. And then the next night, she's not there.
Right.
Which, it was phenomenal storytelling. Because right away, we're like, something happened.
Yeah.
We probably know who did it.
You're right.
And
that's a very good detail.
Yeah. And then he ends up going to the hospital to see her. And she's just
messed up. Yeah.
Beat to hell.
One thing that I think, normally this would bother me in a movie, but I think for this movie, it was a good choice, is the actress playing Alina, Chloe Grace Moretz, was 17 at the time.
Really?
Right. Which I think is, I mean, if this were a more exploitative movie, like if there had been like, I don't know, nudity or anything, you'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I think because we're supposed to view her as a victim,
yes,
it works that she is the age that her character is.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at her and you're like, that's a kid.
That's a child.
That's a child. Why is she in this situation?
Yeah.
And similar to that, I just appreciate, I don't know why I was expecting bad things, but I appreciate that the character of Robert McCall is not judgmental about her character.
Yeah, like or her situation.
Her situation. He wants to help her, but he's not like, why are you doing this? Are you a slut or whatever? Like, he's just like, he feels for her, but at the same time, he's not trying to pressure her into like changing careers. He's just like, I wish you wouldn't do this. Yeah. But on the same token, it's not my life, it's your life, right? Right. It's only when she is helpless that he steps in.
Yes.
And I, again, appreciate that the movie does a good job of like, these villains are cartoonish. Yeah. But the story they're telling is
real.
True to life in the sense that does happen to women where they're told, hey, we're going to, pay for your immigration to the US or whatever, and then these women are tricked into being prostitutes or working at strip clubs or whatever, sort of against their will because they're in the country not legally or whatever the case. I'm just talking to my ass. I don't know all this stats or anything, but I do know that does happen. So I appreciate that the movie does a good job of illustrating that, but it's not in like a clunky, like, again, we liked Taken, but the Taken has a very clunky idea of what human trafficking is.
Yes.
And this feels more towards reality. It's still cartoonish, but it is like, it feels, they do a good job of making you hate the villain enough that you're like, I'm glad he fucking knifed all of them with a piece of glass or whatever. Yeah. It's effective.
It is. It's very effective. Yeah. I also wanted to say, we had talked about like how just purely evil the bad guy is. So Alina has a friend that's also in the is getting trafficked and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And after Robert like kills all the Russians in the restaurant, like I guess it's like the guy under like the head of the organization.
Right.
He comes to America to find out what happened and to eliminate the issue.
Right.
He sits down with Alina's friend and is like asking her questions like, do you know what happened? Do you like, have you spoken with Alina? Are you close with her? And at first she lies because she doesn't want to get in trouble and like she doesn't want to get Alina in trouble. But then being the dickwad that he is, he like threatens her. And so she starts telling the truth and she tells him the truth. And he does this classic thing that we see a lot, and this probably also happens in real life. He's very like reassuring. He's like, do you want some water? All this kind of stuff. And then he gets behind her and he chokes her to death.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucked up.
Yes.
That is so fucked up.
It is.
And it was a real bummer.
It is a bummer. I know that. Also, that actress looks so much like Jennifer Lawrence.
I know. It was wild.
I was like, wait a minute, is that Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a different actress. But
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you can hear the puppy crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate scene. And he sucks. That guy sucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the Russians are back to being the bad guys.
Yes.
That was big in the 80s and then kind of died out for a little while, but they're back, baby.
They're back, baby.
I feel like every decade we have a different villain, right? The U.S. has to have a different ethnic villain. And like in the 80s, it was the Russians, right?
Yep.
In the 90s, it was the Japanese or whoever.
Probably the Middle East.
Probably the Middle East. Yeah, it was the Middle East, right? No, in the 90s, I feel like it was like Korea and like Japan and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, or I'm sorry, in the early 2000s, we were in the Middle East, right? We were in Afghanistan and Iraq. So it was like, if you're Middle Eastern, you're the villain, right?
Yep.
Congratulations. And then in the 2010s, we were like, we're done with Iraq. We're moving on to Mexico. If you're Mexican, you're the villain, right?
Yep.
And now in the 2020s, we're like, the Russians are back.
They're making a comeback, baby.
So sorry, Russians.
Yeah.
You're not listening anyway.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, pretty good, I say.
Oh, it's very good. I really enjoyed this movie.
Now, before we get to the rating of this movie, we got a couple of categories we got to go through.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
So the first one, how old is this man?
Out of 5?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like a 2.8.
Okay.
2.7.
I was even going to go lower. I was going to say like a 2.
A 2, yeah.
Like, he's clearly middle-aged.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Denzel, I think, at the time of filming was like late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem that old.
No. He seemed about as old as my dad when I was like 11.
Yes.
10 or 11.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. He's middle-aged.
He is middle-aged. Okay, so part 2.
Yes.
How sad is this dad?
Well, like we covered earlier, he's not like terribly sad.
No.
But there is still a sadness to him.
There is.
But you can tell that he sort of made his peace with it.
Yes.
So I'd say like a 2.
Yeah.
Maybe even lower, like a 1.7.
Yeah. I would say that. I don't know if this was his own category last time or not, but how dad is this dad?
Oh.
Now I'm gonna rank him pretty high, right?
Yeah.
This is like a 4 or a whatever.
Yeah.
First of all, the first scene we see him, the dude is wearing New Balance sneakers.
Oh, yep.
Straight up.
Yep.
Tucked in shirt. He's
Yep.
working at fucking Home Depot.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't get much more dad than that.
No.
Loves giving out a life lesson.
Yep.
He's a cool dad. Don't get me wrong.
oh, yeah.
He's not a lame dad like Brian Mills. He's a cool dad.
Yeah.
But he's still a dad.
Yes. Yeah, I would probably say about a 4.
Yeah. Yeah, like a 4.
4.5.
What's the deal with his wife?
God, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah, there's nothing. His wife's dead.
At first I thought she was dead, but then it sounded like he might have like died and they had a funeral and like she had to move on or something, and so maybe he like they killed him, quote unquote, but they had to do that for whatever secret agent reasons.
Yeah, I can tell you from the sequels that his wife is dead.
Oh, then his wife.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, at least they didn't write her to be the worst. So
That's true. Yeah, she, from all accounts, it sounds like she was a lovely woman.
yes. So there we go.
Yeah.
Still doing better than Brian.
Yes.
And lastly, how would this man fare in a fight against John Wick? Now I'm going to say I'm going to do this in two different ways, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, hand to hand, right? I think hand to hand, John Wick still takes it.
I think he does. It'd be a hell of a fight.
It would be a hell of a fight. But the main reason I say that he still takes it is because he's bigger.
Yes.
And he is... I think they're equally ruthless.
Yes.
But I think John is luckier.
Yeah.
It seems like he's a lot luckier. Like,
Yeah.
he can fall off a 2-story building and be okay.
And be fine, yeah.
So I would give that one to John, personally.
Yes. Yeah.
But I have a second thing
Okay.
where I think if Robert McCall, for some reason, knew John Wick was coming, I think he stands a much better chance.
Yes. I think it would still be very close, and it could probably go either way, but I think if he knew John was coming and he could really make sure that he got this right, I think he could take it.
I think he could. And the main reason I think that is Robert McCall, I think, is incredibly smart.
Yes.
And he's much better when he has time to prepare.
Yes.
And two, we see John Wick get hurt all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He gets shot. He gets run over.
Stabbed.
Thrown off a building.
Yeah.
And I think if Robert McCall managed to engineer a scenario where John Wick couldn't see it coming, he could nail gun him in the brain or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know which way it would go, but I think if, like, let's say in this fictional scenario, Robert McCall gets a hit put out on him and John Wick's coming for him, but he knows John Wick is coming.
Yeah.
I think he would win. If he could get lucky enough that John doesn't see that coming.
Yes. Yeah.
I genuinely think that he stands a chance there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give him like a 4.5 out of 5.
Yes.
Unless
I
it's hand to hand, and then John just gonna take it.
Yeah. Again, very close fight.
Very close fight.
But I think John would just be able to get the upper hand.
Yeah. So
mainly because I think his form of like martial arts is just a little bit more. It's quicker.
Yes.
It feels like.
Well, and the Equalizer, even when you see him in the following movies, he's not a fighter.
Yeah.
He's a planner.
Yeah.
He relies on the element of surprise.
Yeah.
He's not like, because in the one time we do see him get into a hand-to-hand fight, he's on the ground.
Yeah.
And he only gets out of it by being smart.
Yes.
So I really don't think hand-to-hand he stands too much of a chance.
No.
I think when it comes down to it, he's not as fit.
No.
And he's not as good of a fighter. But with everything else, I think he stands a much better chance.
Yes.
So now that that's all out of the way, what would you rate this movie out of 10?
$9.5.
Damn. Okay.
I really like this movie. Honest to God, this is like in my top 5, if not top 3 movies of the year so far.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. This was a really good movie.
Wow. Okay. I was not expecting you to like it so much.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It was just the artistry of it that was really good.
It is very well put together. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not that I don't like it. I really, really, really like this movie. I want to be clear about that. But I don't know. I think it is just that it's too long.
And that's why I docked points, is because it's just a little too long. You cut it down, it's a 9.9.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it, oh man, I'm gonna sound like a dick saying this. I'm gonna give it like a 7.8.
No, that's fair.
I really like it, but it's just not. It doesn't break through that great barrier for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like anything above an 8 should be considered great. You know, like, or not great, but I feel like 8 to 9 is like amazing. You know, really good. And then 9 and above is like great, fantastic, perfect, you know. So it's not quite there, but it's almost there. Mm-hmm. I think if they just trimmed it down a little bit, it would be a lot better. But I have no issues really otherwise.
Yeah. I'm like, I was trying to like find a reason other than it being long that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And it was hard. I couldn't, like every scene, like I said at the beginning, it had me in its grasp from minute 1.
And I mean, to be fair, I think maybe part of it is I watched it over 2 sessions. So I watched half of it in the morning and then half of it in the evening. And I think if I had watched it all in one go, maybe I wouldn't have felt the length as much.
Maybe
it's just because that second half I feel like isn't as strong.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
But that's okay. Yeah. See, it's good when we disagree sometimes.
It is.
God, that was awkward for a minute there. We almost fought.
I know.
Almost came to blows.
You should have seen us. We were ripping shirts off and everything.
I had Grayson by the collar.
Oh, God.
Anyway, that brings us to everybody's favorite part of the show.
Hell yeah.
If you remember it from last time, it's called Editor's Picks.
Yeah.
So this is the part where we each recommend a film that you should watch. It's not necessarily an action movie. It's just a film we've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Could be an oldie. Could be a newbie. Could be a porno. Could be, I don't know.
If you recommend a porno, I'll Venmo you $30.
That would be amazing. Here's something for your spank bank.
Oh God, there was a movie I was thinking of the other day that I was like, man, I gotta rewatch that.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I've never told anybody this. I want to put this out on the internet.
Oh God.
So one time when I was a kid, right? I don't know why I'm confessing this. This title has been stuck in my head my whole life.
Yeah.
I was scrolling through the channels, right? And when I was a kid, we had cable.
Classic.
So there was like 400 channels or whatever, right? And I remember one time I was just scrolling looking for something. And I managed to find myself looking at the TV guide at the names of the adult video stations, right? So it was like these like, you know, whatever they've been replaced by now, I don't know. But it used to be on cable, you had these, it was like 4 channels that were like pay-per-view porn, right? And this title has been stuck in my head my entire life.
Yeah.
And it was called Big Black Poles in Deep Asian Holes.
Holy fuck.
What a title.
Wow.
Really gives you a visual. And and that's been in my head.
Fuck.
I've never told anybody that. That's been in my brain for like 20 years now.
Oh my God.
So there you go, internet. Go see if you can go find big black poles and deep Asian holes.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
holy
do you have an actual recommendation?
Oh.
Don't Google that.
I'm not Googling it. I'm trying to think of the movie I was thinking of.
Well, I have one.
Yeah.
It's called Big Black... No. No, I can't recommend that. So I recently watched this movie. It's called Weird. Okay. And it's the Al Yankovic story.
Oh, yes.
It's the Weird Al Yankovic sort of biopic.
Yeah. With Daniel Radcliffe.
It's Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Is it really?
It's so funny. It's not taken seriously at all.
Excellent.
There's a scene where he has a gunfight with Pablo Escobar, if that tells you anything. It's great. I wouldn't say, I mean, depending on who you watch it with, I wouldn't say it's laugh out loud funny, but it is very humorous. It's a good time. And it's short. It's like an hour 40. You can watch for free on the Roku channel. So I would
All
encourage everybody to go check that out.
All right.
It's a good time.
Oh man, what have I been watching recently? Fuck, I can't remember what I was thinking of the other day. I will say, I think I might have already talked. I think we talked about these movies. X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit! If you still haven't seen that yet, I don't know what you're doing. I saw that movie, swear to God, like 7 times in theaters. Oh my God, it was so good. Yeah, go watch X-Men Apocalypse. It has one of the best Quicksilver scenes ever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a good movie.
It's a really, really good movie. Yeah,
Right.
X-Men Apocalypse is my pick.
There you go. And if you get bored, big black
Big black poles in what? Small?
deep Asian holes.
In deep Asian holes.
Yeah, just so you know.
Oh, brother.
Which, by the way, when you're like 9 or 10 or whatever I was, and you don't realize the innuendo being told there,
Yeah, you're like,
it takes you a minute to realize what they're talking about.
yeah.
Anyway, that's all. Now that you've all been traumatized, Grayson,
Yes.
what should they do?
If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you're on Spotify, rate us.
Yes.
You can also share on there.
Yes.
If you're on any of the other ones, I'm sure there's like commenting or rating or liking or whatever.
Yeah.
Just hit the interaction buttons.
Yeah.
We are on Instagram,
Yep.
YouTube,
Yep.
TikTok, though that might be going away, which
Probably.
is hilarious.
Gotta love it.
U.S. government is so fucked.
They're, bunch of clowns.
Yeah. Facebook.
Facebook.
We're on Facebook. We have an email, vivalaaction@gmail.com. We are Viva La Action everywhere else.
Everywhere.
And in the link, or the bio,
Yes.
link in the bio, there's a not a survey, but just like a form you
Yeah.
can fill out to leave a suggestion.
Yes.
So you can use that to leave a suggestion. You can also just DM us or email us or comment in the video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hey, watch this thing. And if it's an action movie, we'll probably watch it.
Email us. Get a sticker.
Yes.
Send you a sticker.
Yep. Let us know. Well, I cannot emphasize how fucking cool they are.
They're super cool. I'm a big fan. My wife designed them.
Shout out.
Shout out to Destiny, my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
You said all the things.
I did.
So thanks for listening.
Yep.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Adios.
Okay. This is after the episode.
This is Viva La Action at night.
After dark.
After dark.
At night.
You said it was called Nobody?
Nobody. It's from 2021.
2021?
It may have actually come out in 2020.
Okay.
But I saw it in 2021. So I think that's when it's from.
And it's just one word, Nobody?
Yep.
Nobody.
I don't remember the director.
2020-ish.
It'll come up.
Yeah.
If you see a disgruntled looking man with a beat up face on the cover, that's the right movie.
Excellent. Very good.
And so we'll be watching that next time. I don't have a definitive date on when we'll be recording because I'm going out of town. And then when I come back, I have to work.
Gross. So you're going out of town this upcoming weekend?
Correct.
And then you have to work that next weekend?
Correct. So we may have to record remotely.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Fine.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Then I'll just plan on watching it on the 30th?
Yes. I would do that. Plan that. Hello.
Your tiny terror wants you.
Okay. Well, that's everything.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.